Hello and welcome to my crafting video. My name is Brooke Rose and I work at the Hampton Park branch of the Forsyth County Public Library. So I wanted to do a crafting video for you guys today using items that most people have laying around their house. So I was thinking about what I have in my house and thinking about the fact that I really need to clean out my t-shirt drawer and get rid of some of the old t-shirts that I never wear anymore. So I want to teach you guys how to make different items using old t-shirts. And these are what I want to teach you. The first is a tote bag using an old t-shirt. So you have the sleeves are handles and the top will be the opening and then you tie the bottom. So it's pretty easy. The next thing is called an infinity scarf, and it's just a loop of fabric that you can wrap around your neck, and it can be decorative or practical, and depending on how much you stretch it will be how long the scarf turns out. And then the last thing, which I think is the cutest, is a dog toy, and this is pretty easy. All of these things do not require any sewing whatsoever, and the only supplies that you need are old t-shirts and a pair of scissors and a Sharpie, and the Sharpie's actually optional, but it does make things a little easier. So that's it. All right, so I'll be right back and I will start by teaching you how to make a tote bag. Okay, so for my tote bag, I wanted to pick something that I thought was cute. And this one says, "Life is great, reading makes it better." So it's the perfect bag for carrying library books. And it's really easy. The only thing you have to do is cut off the sleeves. And I tried to leave the seam there, just to strengthen it a little bit. And then you cut out the neck, and you can do that as much or as little as you would like, depending on how big you want the opening. And then you pick a spot on the bottom of the bag where you want your bottom to be. So it depends on how deep you want your bag, on where you can draw the line for the bottom of your bag. And I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to make my next bag out of my old Florida State University Anthropology Department t-shirt. And the first thing I am going to do is cut my sleeves. And this is pretty easy. I just try to get as close to the seam as possible. So there goes one sleeve. And when I flip it over, I see that I left more fabric on the other side because the seams didn't line up exactly. So then I can just go back and trim that to make it a little more even. Not too big of a deal. Alright, get rid of that scrap. And now I'm going to do the other sleeve. And I was actually impressed with how well my scissors, that one ended up almost perfectly. So that's excellent. All right, so now for the opening of the bag, we're going to cut the neck. And this shirt has a pretty small hole. But if you look at the seam of the shoulder, you can decide how wide you want your handles to be, which I don't want mine too wide. So I think I'm going to do a cut about halfway. I'm going to fold it in half and do a cut about halfway. Just kind of mark where I want my opening to start, and do that on the other side. And then you can either take something round and hold it down and draw a line if you want to be perfect. I am not a perfectionist, so I'm just going to start cutting, starting where I have my little starting cuts, and I'm going to cut around, making sure I don't cut into the graphic on the t-shirt, and then all the way to the other side. And I'm just cutting both sides of the t-shirt at the same time because to me that's easier. But again, if you are more of a perfectionist, then you can use a ruler or, like I said, something round. So there goes the neck of my shirt. And now I have handles on both sides and an opening. So the next thing I need to do is turn the shirt inside out. And now I am going to use a Sharpie, and I don't know if you can see that. You can't see it because I used an orange Sharpie, but on one side I already drew my line. So now I am going to fold where I drew my line on one side and mark it so I know where I want my line to be on the other side, because this part does need to be fairly even. And then I just took a notebook. I just needed something with a straight edge, and start drawing my line. Now, depending on what color your t-shirt is, you might want to be careful with what color of a Sharpie you use. And then I have my line, and again, you probably can't really see that, but I have my line, and my bag is going to end up being about that deep. Because what I'm going to do is from the bottom of the t-shirt to the line, I'm going to cut strips approximately 1 inch to 1.5 inches wide. So all you have to do, and again, if you want to be precise, you can, but I'm just going to mark about halfway, and they really do not have to be exact. Let's just mark them off. Okay, and then I take my scissors and I cut from the bottom of the shirt up to where I drew my bottom line. Now again, I did both of them at the same time, both sides at the same time. So the reason I did that is so that I can make sure that I have the same number of strips on both sides. And this first one I cut was folded in half, so I am just going to cut that one in half to make 2 strips where the shirt's folded. Alright, and then you just keep cutting up to the line. Now I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'll be right back after I finish cutting my strips. Okay, so I have finished cutting all my strips, and I have what looks like fringe on the bottom. So you can see they're not all uniform, they're not perfect, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. But I did cut both sides of the t-shirt at the same time so that each strip has a pair. Now what we're going to do with the fringe facing towards you, just start at one end, take each pair and tie it together just in a traditional knot. And you can pull it pretty tight because the tighter you have it, the less it'll come loose, and it will close the gaps between the knots. So you just tie just a regular knot. That's all you have to do. Just keep tying going down the row. And it's going to look messy, but don't worry, because our shirt is inside out, and once we trim them and we turn the shirt right side out, then you're not going to be able to see them at all. And you just keep tying. Okay, and I'll be right back again when I'm finished tying all of my knots. Okay, I have finished tying all of my knots, and as you can see, it looks kind of messy. The bottom has bunched up quite a bit because I tied my knots really tight. Also, if you stick your hand through to the bottom, you probably can find some holes. Okay, so if you want to get rid of those holes, you can start back at the beginning. Just go to the first knot that you tied and take, this is the first knot, take the inner strip and then the strip next to it from the knot next to it and tie those together and tie those really tight. And then go to the next one, and so you're tying together the knots that are next to each other and making a new knot. That's completely optional. It's up to you, and you just go down the row like that. So that is something that I would do to close those holes on the bottom. I'm not going to worry about it right now, but I'll go back later and do it. So now I can take all these fringes and just trim them. You can trim them as close as you want. You don't want to do it too close because if you do it right up against the knot, then they'll come loose. But just keep in mind that they will be at the bottom of the bag. Now, I think that having the bunched up look at the bottom of the bag makes it really cute. It kind of gives it that tote bag look, and it's made out of t-shirt material anyway, so it's not going to be standing upright at any rate. So you can just go through the whole row and trim the fringe. And then all you have to do is turn the bag right side out. And now I have a cute little Florida State University Anthropology Department tote bag made out of a shirt that didn't fit me anymore. So that is how you make a tote bag out of a t-shirt. Next, I'm going to show you how to make an infinity scarf. It's really easy. It'll only take a second. So here again is my infinity scarf sample. It's just one round piece, okay? Which is what an infinity scarf is. So all you have to do for this is take another t-shirt. I wanted a red one, okay? So I'm going to use this t-shirt, and all you have to do is cut off the body of the t-shirt. Now, the back of this t-shirt goes down pretty low. So there's only, if I cut a straight line, there's only about that much fabric, but that's okay. That's all you need for an infinity scarf. So all I need for this one is my scissors. The line does not have to be perfect by any means. So you just start one side. I'm again cutting both sides of the t-shirt at the same time. And that's just to save time. I'm not worrying about being precise or making a pretty cut. So now the top of the t-shirt is just scrap. Okay, I'm making a little scrap pile here. Now you have the body of the t-shirt is one big piece, one round piece. It's too wide. I could fit it around my neck, but I want this one to be pretty long. And all you have to do is stretch it. Stretch it as much as you can. My husband was teasing me because for the purple one, I got my leg up, put my foot in it, and I just stretch. Now, stretch. You can just keep doing that until it's the length you want. This one's pretty long already because the t-shirt was pretty big. If I wanted it really long, I could get my husband to stretch it for me because he's stronger than I am. And then you just wrap it around. Okay, and now I have a nice bright red infinity scarf, which goes great with all the black and white shirts that I wear. Alright, that's all you have to do for an infinity scarf. Pretty easy. Okay, the next thing that I want to teach you how to make is a dog toy. And again, here is my sample of a dog toy. I used 2 colors to make this toy. You can use 1 color, you can use 3 colors, you can use 7 colors. It's all up to you. But all you have to do is cut a t-shirt into strips, knot them, braid them together, and then knot the other end. So these are made from 1/2 of a t-shirt, 1/2 of 2 t-shirts. So I have already cut the other half of my white t-shirt into strips, and it doesn't really matter if you include the graphic on there or not. Your dog's not going to care. But this made about 12 t-shirts, and I made them approximately an inch. I said t-shirts, I meant strips. I made them about approximately of an inch wide, but again, you do not have to be precise. They're not all going to be the exact same length, but that doesn't matter because later you can trim the ends. That's what we're going to do. So, like I said, this made 12, and I'm not going to need that many for the dog toy, but I'll show you. This is the other half of my red t-shirt. So I'm just going to cut this into strips as well. Now keep in mind you're going to be braiding these together. So I made sure I cut all of my strips about an inch wide, but then when I was deciding how many to use, I made sure that I did it in multiples of 3, because when you braid, you divide them into 3 sections. So I wanted them to be approximately even in the section. But I am going to pause for a second while I cut this red shirt into strips. Okay, hi. I am almost done cutting all of my strips. I have all my red strips. I only have 1 more left to cut, but I wanted to show you one thing. Number 1, I really did not care at all how nice and pretty the edge of the t-shirt was. I don't know if you can see that, but I have lots of little sections where the cutting did not go smoothly, and that's okay. It's going to be all braided together. I also wanted to show you where as you're cutting the strips, you're going to reach the part that was the sleeve, so it's going to have kind of a curve, and when I cut this in half, one of them is going to be a lot shorter, so I just get rid of that one. But I'm going to start in the curve and just kind of cut it down in half. And I just really don't care how uniform it all is. So, get rid of that. Alright, so now I have, that one's short too. 1, 2, I should have 9 red strips. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. 10. So I have 10 red strips. I want it to end up being a multiple of 3. And because I prefer having more red than white since it's a dog toy and it's going to get dirty, let's see, I'll go with 21 strips. Well, that'll be a little more white than red, but I have 10 of these. I'm going to take 11 of my white strips. And what I've been doing is taking the end that has the seam from the bottom of the t-shirt and kind of roughly lining those all up. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to end up, you can cut it if you want to. I did on my sample, but it'll make it look more even. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That leaves me with 1 extra that I'm not going to use. Alright, so I kind of tried to mix them all up. Doesn't really matter. And then you're going to take them and take one end, and it's going to be big. Oh, and if you want the dog toy longer, you can stretch the strips like you did the infinity scarf, but that's not necessary. I think I'm gonna, yeah. All right, so you take one end, tie it into a giant knot. Okay, just a giant knot, and pull it as tight. You want to tighten it up towards the very end of the dog toy, and just pull it as tight as you can. So that's pretty tight. That's not going to come undone. And this will be fun for dogs to play tug-of-war. And then I just lay it on the table and divide them into, let's see, 21 divided by 3 is 7. So groups of 7 with a mixture of white and a mixture of red, and it's not going to be perfectly even, but that's okay. If one seems a little too short, you can pull on it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's one group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's another group. And then that one will have 7 too. So you have them divided into 7 equal parts. I mean 3 equal parts of 7. And again, you can pull on some of the shorter ones. It'll make them thinner, but it'll make them longer. Just kind of get those mostly even. Okay. Now I'm just going to braid like you would braid your hair. My dad taught me how to braid my hair. I always thought that was pretty cool. He used to have very long hair. Alright, so just braid it down as far as you can go. And again, you can see some of the t-shirt graphic on there, but that's okay. Your dog's not going to care. Just braid it. It curls a little bit, but that's alright too. That's the good thing about these crafts. I'm not naturally a crafty person, but these are easy for even me to make. So then you're going to hold the end, hold the braid together, and tie it into another big knot. It's going to feel like you're tying the knot up against the other knot, but you have to have room to get your hand in there and grab the ends so it doesn't all fall apart. And then as you pull it tight, it lengthens the dog toy. So we're just going to keep pulling it tight towards the end of the toy. Pull, pull, pull. So this one's a little shorter than the last one I made, but that's okay. Like I said, if I had taken the time to sit there and stretch out all of the strips, I could have made it a lot longer. But it's a nice little tug-of-war craft for your dog. Hopefully they'll have fun with it. So those are the 3 things that I learned how to make out of old t-shirts. A dog toy, an infinity scarf, and a tote bag. And you can tell I've gone to a lot of colleges. But, so thank you very much for joining me. I do want to give you one more little tip, and that is that I take all of the sleeves, these are all sleeves, and they make nice little rags. So another fun tip. Alright, thank you so much for joining me in my craft video today. I hope you learned something that is useful and that will help occupy your time while you're stuck sheltering in place. And I can't wait to see you all when the library reopens. Thank you for joining the Forsyth County Public Library. Bye!